Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am giving you my rundown of BeSureathon from January. So Sasha over at The Wild Sasha has created a readathon that is based off of the Wayward Children series. This one is one of her favorites. I know it is also one of Ro's favorites, and I also did a readathon with Ro, the TBRPG-a-thon, which a video will be coming out for that shortly as well, if it isn't already out. I hadn't read them yet. So the idea of BeSureathon is to be split up into different groups based off of the world that you would have been in this series. This series is about children who get swept into other realms, other realities. It is a portal fantasy, so doors as well as other entryways to alternate worlds open up for these children, and they open up for them because it is where they are meant to be. It's where they are most comfortable. It's where they can be the most themselves. And there are a lot of different worlds, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started reading this series, but I loved them. BeSureathon is really for people who have read the Wayward series and the Wayward Children series and can place themselves in the world that they think they would most likely be a part of, but I had never read them. So I spent my BeSureathon reading the books. So I'm going to take you through the books that I read of the Wayward Children series. I didn't read all of them. The first book is called Every Heart a Doorway, and this is your introduction to these characters and this world. And in this story, you are in Eleanor's home for wayward children. And she was a wayward child herself. In her youth, she traveled to another dimension and then came back. And these children who are gone and then return are changed. And their parents don't understand, and they don't oftentimes believe that they went to a different world, a different dimension. And so Eleanor tracks these children down and convinces their parents that she can rehabilitate them. But really what she's doing is she is taking them in to a safe place where they can either wait for their doors to reopen and go back to where they belong, or be in a place where people understand and don't try to make them feel like they're crazy or believe that it didn't actually happen. So you are introduced to a plethora of characters in the first book. There is a mystery element. There is a fantastical world. It's hard to explain without giving away a lot of spoilers, but essentially it is the introduction. I gave this first book 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like it was the favorite book that I'd ever read, but I really, really enjoyed it. The second book in the series is called Down Among the Sticks and Bones. Down Among the Sticks and Bones. And in this book, you are following the entire journey of one of the characters that you meet in the previous book. So in the previous book, you meet a set of twin sisters. They are called Jack and Jill, Jillian and Jacqueline. And you go back to hear their story, and their story is a really powerful one. One of the things that I really love about Seanan McGuire and this series is that they challenge the stereotypes of society and challenge the binaries that we have and explore queer identities in a really delightful way. So this story follows 2 twin siblings who are forced into gender roles. Their parents are they want a boy and they want a girl, but they had 2 girl children. And so early on, one of the characters was set in a very masculine image and the other was set in a very feminine image, and they had no freedom to explore their own identities. And so this book really tackles a lot of those stereotypes and binary boxes that we put people in and breaks those out and says, why do we have those things? And so I really appreciated that commentary in this novel. I was captivated by the characters Jack and Jill. I thought that they were really, really well developed. The world that they come from is very dark, and scary. It's a world of monsters. It's reminiscent of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's reminiscent of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Dracula and all of those gothic classic novels. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done. The third story was Beneath the Sugar Sky, and this is set in a world of confection. So it is basically a Candyland world where they fall into an ocean of raspberry soda or something like that. I can't remember. And the world is built off of sugar and candy and various different sweets, and this was a rescue mission. So it's all the same characters once again, and they are going into another world to rescue one of the characters that was in trouble previously in one of the previous books. And this one was okay. I enjoyed the main character a lot. In this one, her name was Cora, and she is a fat character. She is a character who has always been overweight her entire life and always made fun of, and it's her struggle to find her identity outside of just being fat and overweight, and knowing that it's okay to be yourself and it's okay to live your life without being afraid of what other people think about you, and to let go of those stigmas and the fat phobia that is prevalent in society. So once again, the author is coming through with a commentary on society and the way that we look at people, and putting a face on these prejudices that people tend to have. And I really related a lot to this main character because that's a struggle that I've always lived with as well. Having said that, it was actually my least favorite of the books that I read. I don't think I connected very well with the confection world. So if I was to choose a world where I belonged, it would not be in a confection nonsense world where nothing makes sense and everything just, I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but it wasn't one that I connected very well with. So the characters, once again, were wonderful. The story was great. I just didn't connect as well with the world that it was set in, and so it was my least favorite of the books that I read. The fourth book is called In an Absent Dream, and this follows another one of the characters that you meet in the very first book, and she goes to a world that is a goblin market world. So there is a poem, I believe by Christina Rossetti, called The Goblin Market, and this is based off of that poem, as well as the plethora of fairy tale type stories that have been based off of this poem. And it was really, really well done. The farther in the series that you get, the more depth the stories get, because you're drawing on all of the previous stories and all of the previous information that you're getting as you're going through. And they're very short stories, and so the first few of them, they feel very surface level in a way. At least definitely the first book feels that way, but as you keep going, it builds on itself and creates this really complex system of portal worlds and characters and the way that the characters interact with each other, and it just gets better and better as you go. And so In an Absent Dream has been my favorite one so far. At first I was not satisfied because it skips around a lot in the story. This particular girl goes back and forth between her portal world and her birth world multiple times, and a lot of time elapses between, and you get hints of what's happening, but you don't get the actual meat of the story of what's happening. But that's not really the point of this story. The point is this character's struggle to decide, okay, do I go to this world where I feel like I belong, or do I stay in my home world because I have connections with my family that are also very important to me? And so that struggle was really highlighted in this story, and I felt like it was really, really well done and a interesting point, one that the author had not really dug into in previous stories yet. So that was definitely my favorite one so far. I am in the middle of reading the next story, which is To Come Tumbling Down, I believe is what it's called. I'm almost done with the audiobook, but Scribd took it off today. So I tried to go on and finish it today and it wasn't there. So now I'm having to wait for the library to get in the audiobook or the the regular book so I can finish reading it. And it was turning out to be one of my favorites as well. We're back in the world with Jack and Jill. We're back in the moors, which is the dark gothic horror world that was set in the Down Among the Sticks and Bones. And it's a new story, but all of the new characters that you've met so far are now there with them as well. So the continuing on of developing the characters and developing the worlds and the systems and everything, it just, like I said, it just keeps getting better. And I know there are more. Another one was just released recently, so I am definitely going to be continuing on with this series. I think it's so much fun. It's very reminiscent of the Alice in Wonderland, Chronicles of Narnia, you know, children tumbling into a world that is completely different from our own and then finding their way back to their homes, you know, and what happens after that, what happens when they come back and struggle to continue back into society. So these are definitely young adult to adult novels. They deal with a lot of very deep concepts, and there is some graphic scenes in them as well. So even though the main characters are children, I wouldn't say that this is a series for children. It's definitely a series for young adults or adults. But yeah, overall, I really loved them. As they kept going, I was giving them more stars. So I gave the first 2 4 stars. Then the Confection World, Between the Sugar Sky? Yeah, Beneath the Sugar Sky, I gave 3 stars. And then the final book, In an Absent Dream, that I completed, I gave another 4 stars. So overall, very enjoyable series. I am really, really glad that Sasha had the BeSure-athon and pushed me to actually read them. They've been on my TBR for a while. I just never took the time to do them. And it's great because the audiobooks are only 4 or 5 hours long generally. And if you listen to them on, you know, 1.5 speed, it goes by very quickly. And they're small novels. So you can get through a lot of them in a month or in a sitting. So yeah. Overall, very enjoyable. I highly recommend that you guys pick them up if you get the chance. Anyway, that is all for today. I hope that you enjoyed this little sit-down run-through of the Wayward Children series. And if you did, make sure to give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Yesterday, there was sun and there was rain.